Hi, this is John Anderson, and you're listening to Retrospectives with John Broughton on KC Radio 97.7 FM.
It's amazing how we just steam on making music and touring and never get a chance to come down to Australia. It's been one of the more frustrating parts of my career. And we did a couple of things with Yes. We did a pretty good album called Talk, which did very well. Unfortunately, the record company didn't do too well. They sort of folded. So we were sort of left a little stranded in a way. And I got together with Chris a year and a half ago and sat down with him and said, you know, for me, the importance of making music is getting stronger and stronger. So we should really spend a little more time recreating the Yes style. And so, you know, Chris said, well, you know, what do you think of working with Steve again and Rick? And I said, quite honestly, that's the classic Yes lineup. We should really give them a call, see what they're doing. And that's exactly what we did.
Right, so I guess if you really had to sit down and pick a classic Yes lineup, that would be the one, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And interestingly, you know, as you know, the business fluctuates. Sometimes you're in vogue and sometimes you're not. Yes has had a sort of good career. We've been very sort of successful in the 70s, in the 80s, but we haven't quite made it in the 90s. But the music's still good. The band are still playing great. And I think it's more a question of, you know, life is like a cycle. I think that at this moment in time, maybe there is a large audience for the band coming up in the next couple of years. That's what we believe, or else we wouldn't be still making music. We still feel very comfortable about what we do. We're not changing our style. And interestingly, we decided to make an album of some of the classic music of the 70s in order to get together, because you know, as you get older, you have definite styles of music that you want to play. So you go off on your solo careers, and then to get the band back together, the whole idea of sort of getting together just to tour and do old music wasn't really what I wanted to do, but it was a way to get us together. So we recorded some of the really more interesting music of the 70s that were never recorded live, some songs from the Tales from Topographic Time, and Going for the One, this kind of music that was never recorded live. And it came off great. And at the same time we were rehearsing the old music, we started writing new music, and that was the key to getting back together. And as it happens, we've an album just come out a month ago called Keys to Ascension, and now we've just finished last week the part 2 of Keys to Ascension, which is 40 minutes of new music and 40 minutes of some of the live stuff.
And that was some very special live shows, weren't they? I think I've read some of there were fans coming from all over the world to grab a ticket for those.
Yeah, we decided you know, there's no point really in trying to do a live show in New York or San Francisco or LA, London, because basically you're setting yourself up to be sort of watched over, you know. And the best time that any band will tell you, the best time to record is halfway through a tour. You've been on the road for a month, you're really well oiled, you're playing good, but, you know, we were still just making a live album. We weren't really touring or anything, so we decided to do it in our small town where I live, a place called San Luis Obispo, in a small sort of theater, which is like a 50s Art Deco cinema. Looks very much like a Roger Dean cinema inside. And it fitted the bill. There was about 700 people per night. We did 3 shows, and people did come from Japan, from England, from Netherlands, from Italy to see the show. And the main thing was to get a good live recording. The bottom line was to get a good recording.
Yeah.
And we just had a lot of fun playing together, and it sort of spurred us on to to record some new music. So the first Keys to Ascension has half an hour of new music on. The second Keys will have 45 minutes of new music. So at least we're still making new music. We're not just retro sort of thing, you know.
I was just asking about the feeling in the studio this time around.
Interestingly, the you get more mature. You accept each other's foibles, you know, a lot easier than when you were in your 20s and 30s. You know, I'm 52 years old, and the guys are all sort of in the 40s now, and you do tend to really have pride in working together. There's a lot of, what's the word? You know, you really respect each other, if you want to call it anything. That you respect each other's talent more as you get older, and you realize that there's only one way we can make Yes music, and this is this lineup. This is the classic Yes style, and throughout a career, you kind of hold on to that and say, well, these were great times, and it's nice to be able to, 26 years later, still make music together. So you have a lot of respect, and a lot of maturity goes with it. And actually, interestingly, it's easier to make music. It comes out a lot faster.
Let's cover a little bit of history as well this morning. When you first formed Yes, did you have an original blueprint of what exactly you wanted, the sound you were looking for? Or that it sort of just come in time?
At that time, there were some really good bands in London that we had a great time watching. There was a band called The Nice that later became ELP, and you had very good musical bands without very strong vocals. So it was a very musical period. At that time, I said to Chris, we should really go for more music going on with powerful vocals, and that's basically the style we went for. And we definitely said, let's stay away from trying to make hit records. I know it sounds crazy, but when you start a band, the first thing you think about is becoming famous or successful. And we just wanted to become a good band, simply because we admired bands in England especially, and some in America, you know, Buffalo Springfield, Vanilla Fudge, and things like that. Bands that were just making really damn good music. And we wanted to join that sort of force, you know. And at the same time, it's amazing that 1 year period of 1968 spawned King Crimson, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, Genesis, you name it. There was a dozen really very interesting bands that came out of that period, and most of them were not sort of seeking instant commercial success. You know, they were more interested in, you know, putting on a good show, making good music, and that really was the ground that was made in that period of time, just before the beginning of the 70s.
Sure. You're one of the pioneers of bringing in the theatrical aspect to a live concert during the 70s, you know, spectacular stage sets and lighting and everything. I noticed you held back on that with the Keys to Ascension shows. Is that still a priority for you?
Yeah, the next tour, we're really going to go again into the laser world, because laser is a very great medium for a good show. We still believe in theater. The Keys to Ascension show was a very small 700-seater, and we have a video coming out of the show, and it'll give you an insight into the theatrical look of the stage. So it really looked very well. But I think the reason we try to become more theatrical is you start playing in front of 1,000 people, and then 5,000 people, you know, you think, my gosh, these people at the back they can just about see us, you know. 10,000 people, you start thinking, wow, we better put something so big on stage. So we started to create these sets that Roger Dean and Martin Dean, his brother, started to build, and that became the sort of the period of the 70s where most bands wanted to put on a visual effect show. I mean, you've got Kiss going around doing exactly what they did in 1974, which is the big sort of visual show.
Yeah.
And the best one that I've seen in the last few years was U2. The Zoo TV tour was amazing. Did it get down to Australia?
It did, yeah. I didn't catch it myself, but yeah, it did get down here.
It was a great show. It was a great show. And that was basically what I had always dreamed of doing, you know, that kind of totally major visual art show. And we started in the days when there weren't that kind of show traveling. So
I think you were one of the first bands to incorporate the revolving stage, weren't you?
yeah, we still got it. We might even tour with that next year. We don't know how that the revolving stage really depends on how well the records sell, how well the tickets go. Because if you can play in front of 20,000 people, you can afford to be in the center.
Uh-huh.
But if it's a smaller arena, then you can't do that. It's
Not really conducive,
possible.
yeah.
But so we know basically that a lot depends on the success of these two albums and how people are going to react to more music than probably a lot of people are used to. If you have a young guy, or it doesn't matter what age he is, she or whatever, come along and pick up the new Yes music and they've never heard Yes, it'll be quite a trip because there's so much music there, you know, and in some ways I like that idea. I remember years ago hearing a beautiful piece of music by Sibelius and then going into a store of classic music and realizing there was like 7 symphonies and 20 other pieces of music, and I gobbled them up because I just loved his music, you know. So people who get the chance to hear Yes for the first time are going to be, I hope, very surprised.
Well, Yes music in the 70s was very much considered ahead of its time. Would you perhaps in the 90s like to, or wait, so should you in the 70s, would you have liked to have had the recording technology that, you know, that's available now to have done some of those classic 70s albums?
Well, when you listen to Close to the Edge, it's still a great recording. In fact, when you listen to some of the old classic Beatles songs, they're great recordings on 4-track. Some of the great recordings of Frank Sinatra, jazz stuff that was recorded in the 40s, 50s, great recording. So it's a question, really. Technology is a help and sometimes an amazing hindrance to getting a good recording. You know, you think that you can build a bigger picture because you've got a bigger board, a bigger system, the bigger speakers, a bigger studio, and that's not the truth. It's down to basically what, as the old saying goes, you know, it's what's in the groove that matters, you know.
For sure, yeah. There's been a lot of comings and goings in the band over the years. At any stage, do you think the unsettled nature of the lineup has affected or hindered the finished product of an album?
No. I think every time some things changed, the next step has become more of a challenge, a more refreshing attitude to your music, a more definitive period where you want to make it work. If you have to change anybody in the group, then you do it because it's got to be it's got to be a good musical reason why you're changing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't think we ever really fell out with anybody who left the band or was asked to leave. But musically it wasn't working, so you have to come to a decision. It's like being in a football team, you know, you're playing football and, you know, a couple of your guys are not playing well because they just don't feel like they want to play anymore. Then go and join another team, man. You know, it's like very simple. It was always blown up as a big problem with the band and fingers were pointed, but I don't think that's really what it's really all about. If you have musicians working together, you make good music. If the music isn't happening, it's because maybe one or two of the people in the band are not interested anymore, and you've got to change. I left twice.
That's right, yeah.
Because I was tired of listening to the music not fulfilling my dream of what the band could have been. You know, that's all it was.
The period in the early 80s, actually, when you weren't in the band, Trevor Horn was playing your role. Did you feel uncomfortable or uneasy seeing someone else in that role that you'd occupied for so long?
Not one bit, no.
Huh?
Because I was working with Vangelis, we did 3 albums. I was writing, I was learning to write symphonic music, which I'm still learning. And I was very interested in theater shows. I was writing musicals at that time, which I'm still writing. I'm still learning all that. So I left the band to learn music, learn more about structure and things, and I wasn't really interested in fame. I'd had my 10 minutes, 15 minutes of fame in the 70s. 74, I think for half an hour I felt very famous. And the rest of the time was hard work.
What about the the two mid-'80s albums, 90125 Big Generator? They were a bit of a swing away from the usual sound of Yes, and they certainly won over a new audience for the band. What kind of feedback, if any, were you receiving from long-time Yes fans about the changing?
Well, they were sort of like a little frustrated, but at the same time, 90125 was virtually made when I joined the band again. You know, they asked me to come in and sing. I changed some of the choruses. I changed, Honor of a Lonely Heart. There wasn't a verse, and I changed that with Trevor. I wrote the verses with Trevor. Trevor was and still is a very powerful musician. He's a very dominant person, and I was happy to watch him work, and I enjoy working with him. Unfortunately, after Big Generator, which I thought was a good album, the record didn't do so well, because, see, once you had a hit record, the next album has got to be a hit or you're nothing. And that's the danger of having like a number one, which was like 90125 was a one. It was number one around the world, Honor of a Lonely Heart. One song. There wasn't even a second hit single. So there was only one song, 1 5-minute piece of music had the power to make or destroy Yes, and that's always a dangerous thing to have to live with.
It creates a pressure on you, doesn't it, to follow up, yeah.
Yeah, because the record company were on the band's backs to make a better album. Big Generator, to me, didn't quite sound like a commercial venture. There were one or two very pop songs in it, and I thought to myself, this is very dangerous, and I kept telling everybody we should be doing longer pieces of music with a little bit more Yes style, and I was sort of told to just sing in the band a little bit more and stop trying to sort of direct the band. So I did that album, I toured, and then I left because they weren't listening to me, and I don't particularly like the idea of just being a singer in a band. I'm too musical in my head to want to just be the singer and sort of wear tight pants. I'm not sort of like, it never work for me.
No.
So I left and went to work with Steve and Rick and Bill, and we created a really good album called ABWH. So the guys in the band in California heard that album. They were a bit miffed that we sounded very much like what Yes should sound like, and then there was all that commotion. And the next thing was like, well, let's all get together. And that's why we did Union.
How difficult was that to piece together with so many individuals involved with?
Yeah, the Union tour was great. I got to tell you, I wish we'd have come to Australia. I wish the record company and the manager, especially the manager at that time, should have got their finger out, as they say, and got us down there. But we were playing such a great concert, and unfortunately, the album was very much a record company made album. It was the record company executives that decided which songs went on the album, which songs were released, which tracks went in order. And to me, that was like dangerous for me, because I always seem to know what track follows which song. Song follows another song because of the tempo, the emotion. They went ahead and did it without even asking, So the destruction of that period was definitely a record company position. And, record companies generally, big guys, big record company execs, they don't particularly like me, because I come up with this incredible credence that record companies would never exist without the artist creating a song. And they don't like that. They hate that. So, it's the truth. If you don't have a song, you don't have a record.
Exactly, yeah.
If you don't have a record, you don't have a record companies, and so on and so on. It's the artist that is the first in the long line of how it worked. And this was such a funny period, because they were creating an album called Union totally from a sort of dictatorial position, where they're the record company, we decide what the record should sound like and how it should run. And unfortunately, it sounded pretty bad, even though some of the music, or I'd say 80% of the music, was damn good, but it was in the wrong order. So it's like making a movie and editing it all wrong.
Exactly, and having the ending at the beginning and the beginning at the end. Yeah.
So if you put on Union, anybody who enjoys Yes music is going to, third, fourth song in, they're going to say, wait a minute, this just doesn't sound right. It doesn't flow. So, we had to live with that. And the tour was amazing, I must tell you. The band, 8 people on stage, was, it was just an amazing event. And if anybody's, been fortunate to want to follow Yes throughout their career, there's one track that we recorded called Awaken, which is quite a strong piece of music. It's about 20 minutes long, but boy, when 8 people were performing that at the end of the show, people were standing all the way through that, every gig we played. And we were playing in the round as well.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah,
it was a great moment, and we never videoed it, we never filmed it. It's managers are such dorks sometimes, I gotta tell you. I could on Australian radio, because managers are really, sometimes they just got no idea how to organize stuff.
Let's talk about
that's the artist to be complaining. Okay?
Let's cover the
complainer, so I won't carry on.
We'll cover the future a bit. You've been quoted as saying this new version of Yes, or the reunited version of Yes, is not so much a comeback, more of a step forward. So
it's totally a step forward. We're going to have people all the time trying to complain about why we're making music again. It's like we were down in L.A. a couple of weeks ago, and we were being interviewed on television, and they said, why did you get together? And I said, money. And then I started saying, nah, that was a joke. We got together because of music. It really is a powerful thing. So that evening, when it was aired on TV, they edited out all the good stuff. They just edited in me saying money. That's the reason we got together, money. Instead of listening, editing in the proper explanation. So, people are not really interested in why we make music, especially, in the business,
I believe yourself and Chris have written your first song together for many years this time around.
Yeah, we wrote a dozen songs in a couple of weeks. It was like bonding again,
How's that come to be that you've been together in the same band for the majority of that time, but just haven't sat down and written together?
Well, we started together. We started writing together the first couple of albums, and then Steve joined the band. I found it easier to write with him. Chris had this incredible problem. He was always late. So we'd be halfway through the album when he turned up. It was a funny period of time. And then Chris went on this whole sojourn for 15 years of being very, very independent, writing-wise from the band. He had his own sort of game plan for being in the band. And then he came back, we met halfway around the globe. To be able to get back together with someone that you really enjoy working with was a great feeling of friendship,
And believe there are touring plans for 1997?
Yeah, we'll probably get going next summer, next June, and we're just a good band on stage. We're very interesting on stage, and it's like it's interesting for us to be on stage. If there's an audience there, that's we're happy. We're not. We just don't go on stage and just go through the paces. We do really work well on stage. We really want to be good on stage for each other. So the music is very inspiring. It's a very spiritual event for us.
But does touring still have the same appeal to you, say, today as it did, 25 odd years ago?
More so.
Yeah?
More, because you've got to be good, We have this definite level of wanting to be professional, wanting to be good, put on a great show that people just will never forget, And that's really what we still believe in.
Right. So what are the chances we'll catch you down here for the first time in 20 odd years?
It's about time.
Yeah.
We had a 20-year break between Japan. And now we always go to Japan because there's a lot of fans love the band, It's just a question of getting a good promoter in Australia to put up the money to get us there. Because quite honestly, I don't want to get paid. I just want to come down and play there. I've been saying this to... The problem, as I said before, managers sometimes just don't get it. You ask them, can we go and play Australia? Oh, yes, John, don't worry. I'll let you know, okay? And then about 6 months later, you're still on tour of Canada and America, and you're saying, what happened to Australia? Well, the record didn't sell, the promoters are not interested. Oh, okay. And that's all you ever get, So now I'm demanding that if I go on tour with the band again, we do Australia, or I won't go on tour.
Oh, that's great news.
As simple as that.
Well, we look forward to it. Listen, thank you very much for your time, John.
Okay, I wish you well.
Yeah, all the best for Christmas, and
yeah.
I hope 1997 is a very exciting yes year. I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. As always, I just think.